What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of A Creator's Journey. This one's all about photography, very specific on photography. I was reading an article the other day, and it basically said that Pentax was exploring the possibility of making a brand new design, brand new everything film camera. Now, they were very specific, and they said, doesn't mean that there'll necessarily be anything going to production, but we are looking at the possibility of making a new one. Now, this is very exciting news for photographers because film photography is still a thing. Now, in the digital world, yes, it's very easy to take pictures and there's lots of options, but there's still something very special and very magical about film photography. And it's kind of one of those, it's hard to describe unless you've done it or you've sort of studied the differences between the two. For me, I grew up with film photography. It's what I know, and I still love it. I think there is something very special about a lot of images with film. And I think a lot of it has to do with the natural grain and response of the film, be it slide or negative. The problem I have with digital photography these days is they're, they're more pure than pure, if that makes sense. The goal, of course, with camera manufacturers and that is to remove as much noise as possible. And of course, noise and grain are not the same thing. But the problem is with removing the noise and having these sort of super high ISO settings is they end up being almost clinically too clean for me. And a lot of the really good photographs that I like are ones that have, I don't want to say imperfections, but things like grain in them where it gives them a natural feel, right? It's kind of like that over processed HDR problem. You can always spot it and it's always a little jarring because it doesn't feel natural, right? And I think that, for example, low light photography that doesn't have some kind of noise or like grain structure in it because you used a high ISO film just doesn't register quite right as being natural in some way because it's too clean. So the idea that someone, a camera manufacturer is at least entertaining the exploration of an idea for a new film camera, it's very exciting. And I don't know that I would get into it. And a couple of reasons being is I don't have the equipment or the room like I used to for a darkroom with, of course, the trays, the chemicals, the enlargers, all of that stuff. What I call all the fun stuff, right? As good as all the digital tools are, for me, it'll never be as exciting and as creative as being in a darkroom and actually doing it there on paper. And to anyone that's ever, done any kind of tray processing of black and white or color, but in particular black and white, and that idea of you need to darken up a part of the picture, and you can do it by rubbing your fingers gently over the paper while it's in the developer to heat it up a little bit and make it slightly darker. You just can't simulate that stuff, right? It's not the same as that hands-on approach. So for me, because I won't be able to do that and I don't have the space for a dark room or to build one or anything like that, I don't think I'll be doing film photography. And the reason for that is I don't want to hand my film off to someone else, right? For me, it's part of the process. It's the way I was trained, it's what I learned to do, and so it's part of my creative process of making pictures. And therefore, I don't want to hand film off or, request a print from somebody else. It's not the same, right? If I'm doing it with film, I want to see it from beginning to end. So it's not going to work for me. But I'm really excited to see what a lot of other people do with these. I follow a lot of folks on YouTube where they're out there taking film photography, especially things like 5x4 format for those of you who know what that is, 10x8s. So folks doing tintypes, all of those things. Absolutely love watching those folks do their creative process and their work. So let me know what you think. But for me, I think it's exciting. I think it would be really exciting to see new cameras. Yes, of course you can use old film cameras. I've got some still. And there's nothing wrong with them. They're fantastic. I would want a fully manual film camera. I don't want the camera to do, I don't want essentially a a roll of film to replace the sensor, and the camera does everything else for me. That's kind of, I don't see the point in that. That's kind of self-defeating again. If it's going to figure out my exposure, the focus and everything else, it takes away from those steps, right? For me, film photography is meant to be slow and enjoyable and relaxing. Digital lets you do it quickly, and that's fine. There's a purpose for that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it at all. But if I'm going to do film, I want it to be slow. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Just wanted to put that out there as an extra episode since I read this the other day and I'd been thinking about it. Love to hear from photographers what you think about this. That's it. I will see you in the next one.